do this test and this drill if you want to improve repeated explosive power. So multiple efforts of maximal force that should translate really, really nicely into sprinting and ultimately horizontal performance, which is moving that way. So big fan of testing either the standing broad jump, where you stand 2 feet together, drop, take off, launch yourself as far forward as you can, and then land it and stick it on 2 feet. Pretty much like this. So get tall from your start point, dip, drive through, land it. Has to be a solid landing. Measure off where the heels are, according to that line there. And then the difference between that test and this one is that test is just one massive effort, pushing for as much distance in one effort as you can. This test, the penta jump, what you're going to do is essentially take off one jump after the other. So there is no reload, there's no reset phase. Very much like striking the ground when you're running or bounding. When you run, you don't kind of hit the ground and go and jump from one foot to the other. It's just bang, 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 reactive. And that's what we're looking for in this. So make sure you've done a warm-up. Make sure you're prepared, ready to go. Don't come into this cold because it is quite harsh. It's quite harsh on the knees, and I wouldn't recommend doing this every single time. Do this intermittently just to kind of gauge progress in terms of lower leg strength, power for that repeated effort. So warm up properly, then all you need is a rather long tape measure, or if you've got a shorter tape measure, I'd suggest mark out on the floor, measure off a meter, another meter, do that all the way up. You probably, if you're any good, relatively decent, anywhere from 10 meters to 15 meters. If you're excellent, 15 meters plus. So you might need to be aware of the space you've got. Ultimately, grab one of these tape measures. You can find them off that online website that sells pretty much anything. You know the one I'm talking about. Or just go to a DIY shop, hardware shop, and they'll generally have them. Grab yourself a tape measure. Make sure you've got someone that can take a measurement for you. If not, a little bit of chalk. And as soon as you land that final jump, little flick at the back of your heel, and then measure it across to where you started. So my recommendation for this is, obviously you've got 5 jumps per effort. I would try and limit yourself to something between 3 and 5 efforts maximum. Make sure you've got a couple of minutes rest in between each one. Like I said, it's quite harsh on the knees and it is quite a tough drill. So we're looking more for quality and just a kind of general reference point of, are we powerful? Are we strong? Are we moving well? Because the key to this is not trying to jump too far on that first effort, but ultimately recycling that power so that you're actually generating more distance and height as you go along. So your furthest jump, your biggest jump should be jumps 4 and 5. So your first one is kind of building momentum, building a bit of height from that standing start. And then as soon as you start to cycle the leg through, the heel comes up towards the bum, you can bring the knees up a bit more. And again, you're attacking the floor, landing with that loaded ankle through the midfoot to power off and power forwards, which is very, very different to the standing broad jump I just showed you, where you're taking off. And because you're decelerating and you're not bothered about going forwards again, you're landing towards the back of your foot, the midfoot towards the heel. You're braking, slowing down, and sticking into that ready position. Versus, in this drill, we want to take off and you want to land forefoot to midfoot, so you can ultimately keep your head and shoulders going forwards and you can keep building that forward momentum. So I've done enough talking for now. Let's have a look. Let's see if I've still got it. I will admit, the knees are still pretty stiff. The knees are pretty sore. Too many hits. Right. So make sure that toes are behind the line. Start from the same point every single time. Don't start cheating yourself and inching forwards and going half a foot past the start of the tape. Stay behind it. Oh, it's been a while. Let's go. So then I'd mark it off, get a rough estimate there. So I've got my little line. If I draw that across, 13.5 meters. I'll take that for a first attempt, I think. Ooh, 13.5. So there's one for you to beat. Your penta jump, 5 jumps, 5 ground contacts. Take off from the start. Work your way as far down the tape as you can. See where you finish. Message me